comes to OLED TVs, LG is well known for coming out on top. With the success of the C2, LG have now gifted us with the slightly updated C3 model in 2023, making further improvements on performance, brightness and AI processing to keep this fan favourite on top of the competition. Hello and welcome to Box, where we unbox, review and demonstrate the latest tech. Taking a look at the box, it's quite similar to the previous C2 with the eco-friendly packaging. It's great to see that we get the brightness booster and new processor, which I can't wait to get into. As usual, you get everything you need in the top of the box, like the back cover plates, remote and instruction manuals, with the stand sitting just inside the box alongside the TV. You just get one magic remote here, and again, it's the same reliable build as before with the pointer system, general controls, and usual streaming app hotkeys, so nothing new to comment on here. Just pulling the plastic away, you instantly see that nice thin screen connected to the back box. We have the 55-inch version here. It roughly weighs around 18.5 kilograms with the stand and easily sits on this large TV stand with ease. It does leave enough room around the front and sides for accessories, which is great if you need a soundbar, for example. Laying the TV face down on the covered box, you get a good view of the back here. Now I love the minimal smooth design choice here, keeping it nice and tidy in the event that I can't hide the back from view. Of course there is a handy 300 by 200 VESA mount on the back for wall mounting, but I'll be using the stand mount for this review. The power cable is fixed to the back and it measures roughly around 74 inches long, so that's perfectly decent for reaching around to a nearby power socket. Attaching the stand is very simple with only a handful of steps. It comes in two pieces, the large weighted main base and the smaller fixing plate. The smaller plate just does slot into the top of the main base, securing it with a few screws before slotting the whole stand into the cutout on the back and using those remaining screws to fix it in place. Despite the pretty smooth back, you do get some cable management here, including these two cable tidy clips for directing the cables toward the back, this large cover plate in the centre back, and this shallow channel with a bridge clip on the stand itself. Now while I'm grateful for the additions, I do feel this would only be good for one or two cables, but on the whole it seems a much sturdier system than some of the higher end TVs that I've set up in the past. Just like the C2, you get all the inputs along the right hand side, including an IR blaster out, two aerial/antenna ports, an optical digital audio out, a LAN port, 4 HDMIs all supporting 4K at 120Hz with one supporting eARC, 3 USB ports, and finally a common interface slot just along the top. I love having all these ports along the side rather than the back, making it all easily accessible, especially if you usually wall mount. Now it's up on the stand, you do get a good idea on the dimensions here. The stand does protrude out at around 18.5 inches wide, 9 inches deep and 2 inches tall, and it definitely feels like a premium build that can withstand excessive use over a long period of time. Setup is practically the same as the C2 with the step-by-step options for connecting to the internet, setting up your devices, and enabling any features ready for instant use. Now we're all set up, let's take a look at those menus. Of course, we're working with the 2023 WebOS system, which is slightly different from the previous model, and in my opinion, much more friendly than the previous years. Gone are those less than appealing selection of ad tiles taking up most of the screen. Now it's replaced by the single ad banner and these smaller category titles for finding group settings and apps relevant to gaming, smart office devices, and so on. It's just so much more organised than the menu on the C2, especially with these pre-grouped options, like the game section for example, as you can now find everything you could need to get into a gaming frame of mind. Along the bottom are the usual list of apps in this side-scrolling strip, but now I feel it's been decluttered to really only hold your relevant streaming apps, which will of course be different depending on your region, as well as the art gallery and media apps just at the end. I also like the new home for the settings and accounts info in the top right corner, with their own dedicated buttons. Taking an overall look at the design here, it's definitely ticking a lot of boxes for me. Its slim nature and minimal look really helps it fit in with any modern home setup. The screen is beautifully thin and though delicate, it is protected by this nice brushed metal edge, so I feel it's safe from any accidental knocks to the edges. I love the dark grey texture on the back too, keeping in tune with that smooth, clean aesthetic. The stand is plastic on the back, but built of a nice brushed metal on the front, really making an impact. It's a much better looking stand than the little 2 feet that also come on the smaller models on the C3, and I've got nothing bad to say about the way it looks at all. The design is pretty flawless from both a visual perspective and through ease of use. I do love a good edge-to-edge picture though, making all my game content and favourite shows look stunning, looking super sharp and clear even from a sharp angle. So getting into the specifications on this C3, it's a 4K Ultra HD OLED panel with a 3840 by 2160 resolution. It has the newer A9 Gen 6 AI processor compared to the Gen 5 in the C2, and now comes with a few updated features like AI Super 4K upscaling and the new Personalised Picture Wizard mode. For the gamers, you'll be pleased to see that it has a native 100Hz refresh rate, with the capability of reaching 120Hz with those next-gen consoles. Of course, OLEDs are famous for having that natively brighter picture and high contrast levels, but on top of that, the C3 has also a lot of AI supporting features and pixel dimming for an adaptive picture, as well as Dolby Vision, HLG, and HDR10 support too, so naturally the picture will look pretty stunning whether you choose to customize the settings or keep them as default. Now, similar to last year, the C3 does have a brightness booster available on certain sized models, making it more beneficial to get the 55-inch and up sizes. As an OLED, LG have built in some really helpful energy saving features and OLED care that will help avoid that dreaded burn-in, especially if you happen to watch a lot of content with static images. These features are usually turned on automatically on startup, but for the sake of the review, I'm just going to turn off the energy saving step just to give you a more realistic idea of what the picture quality is like in terms of max brightness. Getting into the settings and modes here, there are a lot of in-depth settings to play with, especially if you like to adapt the picture to your perfect specifications, but mostly I like to just choose from the 10 preset picture modes like ISF Bright and Dark, as well as the classic Filmmaker and Cinema modes. The ISF modes are always a good neutral option if the room is subject to ever-changing light conditions. But if your setup is pretty controlled and you watch more movies than sports, for example, then the Filmmaker mode and Cinema modes are always a good go-to. Of course, now the interface has been updated, you get this new pop-up menu that now shows all of your settings information at once rather than scrolling through a series of icons that reveal your chosen settings as you highlight them. I much prefer this quick look menu as I can see what I have active at a glance, as well as launch some features that I may not have been aware of with the C2, like multi-view for example. LG just seem to have given their entire interface an overhaul, making it simple to navigate and change settings quickly without having to delve into those base settings menus. Now, I'm not usually one for deep diving into the settings anyway every time I want to change up my content, so one of the benefits to having the C3 this year is having even more AI features for both sound and picture that adapt the settings automatically in the background. I do appreciate the introduction of the Picture Wizard though. It utilises AI learning tech to adapt the picture based on the selection of picture preferences that I choose when selecting the mode. I think it works really well, though sometimes I did notice a change in colour or brightness that causes me to alter the settings ever so slightly. Of course though, if your room conditions don't change much throughout the day, then I would stick with the picture modes, but the auto features can be really useful for making those minor tweaks for you. I found when watching older content though, it really helped choosing the cinema or filmmaker modes, as the standard picture settings gave everything a strange smooth overlook, while the cinema mode really brought out the sharp detail and even brightness as was originally intended. Watching a variety of content, I was overall impressed by the colour depth and detail on offer across everything that I watched. The picture has a lot going for it in terms of providing a sharp image with really vibrant colours. The viewing angle is something you don't need to worry about as well, as sitting at the sharpest angle, you still get full visibility, which is great for those living in a tighter living space. The display is glossy, and though these are often prone to glare, I didn't catch my reflection in the screen in bright light. And even when shining a studio light directly against the screen, it absorbed any harsh lighting, which worked amazingly well. The C3 is also HDR ready, showing a little logo in the corner to let me know when it is switched over to the HDR picture presets. Of course, animated content stood out the most, really showing off what this TV can do with its colours and contrast being a strong feature. But what I was most interested in was the brightness. Now last year I thought the C2 fared pretty well, but depending on your chosen picture style, the C3 can reach an impressive 800 nits brightness in HDR compared to standard, and can easily be adjusted with the handy OLED panel brightness slider whenever you need it. I did feel like it wasn't as bright in daylight conditions, with some of those darker scenes coming out a little harder to read, but in low light, the picture seemed absolutely perfect, really showing off that sharp 4K picture. The blacks were very deep and near perfect, but of course can sometimes bleed into the shadows, making low lit scenes a little harder to make out. But to be honest, I prefer this kind of definition as the picture is so much cleaner and less distracting compared to those TVs with noisy shadows. I also put the TV through a couple of picture tests, and from what I can see, there was none of those glaring picture deformities that they often warn you about. The brightness was even and level, white and black images came out solid, and there was definitely a clear definition between the light and dark portions of the screen. Now when it comes to sound, the overall volume and depth is pretty decent, especially considering I'm listening to content in quite a large room. Internally, it's got 2 surround speakers built into the box in the back, and they are very effective for projecting sound. The sound carries well even from several feet away on about 20% volume, with no upsetting distortion during explosive scenes, which is a relief. Again, I felt the sound modes were very important to pay attention to, as each one gives a very specific effect. Knowing the AI features work well when switching between different types of content, I always kept the AI Sound Pro mode on, as it kept the audio consistent when switching between films and shows.
Someday it'll all be yours.
Well, we all live by one simple rule. Elements cannot mix.
I particularly like the clear voice mode, as it brings up conversations beautifully when watching quiet dialogue-heavy scenes. If you do choose to go down the soundbar route, there is support for both optical digital and HDMI eARC/ARC outputs, as well as Bluetooth speakers if you want a richer surround sound quality. Of course, you will get a much better outcome with the external sound source if you're really into high quality sound, but honestly, for the average user, the default TV audio is perfectly adequate in everything you'll watch, especially thanks to those AI features. Lastly, let's focus on the console gaming. For a start, it instantly supports gaming with multiple next-gen consoles like the PS5 and Xbox Series X by including 4 HDMI ports with 4K at 120Hz support. It's very much a pro gaming TV with a lot of gamer-focused menus, settings, and features to enhance your game. And now we have a new game category in the home menu as well. It's really easy to find inputs and even game off console if you wanted to. Having cloud-based gaming apps for direct play on the TV without an external system seems to be something that TV manufacturers are starting to work into their new TVs. I know cloud-based gaming is still hit and miss depending on your internet strength, but being able to play through Utomic or GeForce Now with nothing but your TV and a wireless controller could be the future, considering it makes gameplay more accessible to everyone. Playing a few games like Star Wars Jedi Survivor on the Xbox and God of War Ragnarok on PS5, with the game optimizer enabled, I honestly found the overall experience to be seamless and immersive. The C3 comes with some really intuitive support like blue light reduction, darkroom support, and a whole host of gaming aids like variable refresh rate and G-Sync, FreeSync Premium, ALLM, and OLED Motion. Of course, some of these clash and won't allow you to activate them all at once, but with the optimizer activated, I saw none of those distracting imperfections that you get with TVs in the past. Gameplay was very smooth and detailed, and so I felt like I was getting full performance on these next-gen consoles, which was very satisfying. I also love these game-specific menus as well, especially this little pop-up one that allows me to keep an eye on all of the features and settings directly in-game without having to leave and go into separate settings menus. It really helps having features just like this that enable me to make sure that I'm getting the most out of my gaming experience, which I've not had much experience with some of the TV brands. So after using this TV for a few hours, I can say this is a perfect all-round model for the everyday user and gamers alike. The picture is wonderfully crisp, with rich colours making everything I watch stunning. It's really adaptive when utilising all of the AI features on offer, and I like how often it switches up the settings to best work with the content that I'm watching, even on default. It has some really in-depth game features that really lets those next-gen consoles showcase their full potential. So if you're looking for a high-quality TV that performs well across a variety of content without having to worry about customizing the picture much, this TV is definitely one to watch out for. So what are your thoughts on the new LG C3? Let us know in the comments below, and if you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to Box, where we have plenty of hands-on reviews on the latest tech. And as always, thanks for watching.